On a November afternoon in 1944, the deck of the USS Essex fell silent. Sailors removed their hats. A chaplain's lips moved, but the wind took his words. Then slowly, a battered TBM Avenger torpedo bomber was rolled to the edge of the flight deck and pushed into the sea. Inside the shattered turret, still strapped into his position, was aviation machinist's mate, second class Loyce Edward Deen, 23 years old. From Altus, Oklahoma, the only aviator in the history of the United States Navy ever buried at sea inside his aircraft. Loyce Edward Deen was born on April 24, 1921 in Sulphur, Oklahoma, the seventh of 8 children born to Alan and Grace Deen. His father was a school teacher, and the family later moved to the small town of Altus in southwest Oklahoma, chasing stability in the grip of the Great Depression. Few states were hit harder than Oklahoma during those years, and the Deen family felt every bit of it. After high school, Loyce joined the Civilian Conservation Corps, the government work program that put young men to work across Depression-era America. Then, in 1942, he took a job at the Douglas Aircraft Company in Wichita, Kansas, helping build complete wing sets for the A-26 Invader attack bomber. Working on those aircraft lit something in him. On October 15, 1942, less than a year after Pearl Harbor, Loyce Deen walked into a Navy recruitment office and enlisted. After basic training in San Diego, he attended gunner school, learning the weapons systems of the Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bomber. By 1944, he had shipped out to the Pacific aboard the USS Hornet and was eventually assigned to Torpedo Squadron 5 T-15, part of Air Group 15, aboard the USS Essex. The USS Essex earned the nickname the fightingest ship in the Navy, and Air Group 15, known as the Fabled 15, lived up to it. Among their ranks was the top Navy ace of the entire war, Captain David McCampbell, who shot down 34 enemy planes in 6 months, 7 in a single day. These were the men Loyce Deen flew with. Deen's first taste of combat came in late October 1944, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, one of the largest naval battles in history. The squadron bored through some of the most intense anti-aircraft fire they had ever faced, landing torpedo hits on multiple battleships and cruisers. During those fierce strikes, a piece of shrapnel tore into Deen's foot. When the battle ended, he was given a choice: board a hospital ship, rest, and let the wound heal. Loyce Deen refused. He wrapped a bandage around his foot and told his crew he was staying. His niece, Bertha Deen Sullivan, was not surprised when she heard about it years later. She said, quote, "Loyce would not have it any other way. He would always remain at his post to make sure his brothers came home safely with him." On November 5, 1944, still visibly wounded, Deen climbed into the gun turret of Avenger Tail number 93 for the last time. The mission: Manila Bay, Philippines. Allied intelligence had identified Japanese cruisers and destroyers anchored there, fully manned and ready to fight. As the squadron launched from the Essex, the carriers USS Lexington and Ticonderoga were already under kamikaze attack nearby. Miraculously, a Navy cameraman on the mission captured the final minutes of the flight on film. Lieutenant Robert Cosgrove, Deen's pilot, later recalled the moment they began their attack run. He said, quote, "We thought it was going to be really easy. We got down low and made our run-in, and the ships opened up with all their anti-aircraft. A Japanese 40mm shell tore directly into the turret. Loyce Edward Deen was killed instantly. In the radio compartment below, radio man Digby Denzek came on the intercom, his voice careful and steady, deliberately choosing his words so as not to break his pilot in a moment when Cosgrove still needed every ounce of focus to fly. He said only, "Deen's been hit bad. I've got teeth and stuff raining down on me down here." What followed was an act of extraordinary endurance. With his plane riddled with damage, his turret destroyed, and his gunner gone, Lieutenant Cosgrove turned the crippled Avenger away from Manila Bay and pointed it toward the Essex, nearly 2 hours away across open ocean. He flew through 2 thunderstorms. He radioed ahead to warn the ship of what was coming. When the battered aircraft finally touched down on the flight deck, the scene that greeted the Essex's crew shook even the most hardened veterans. A Navy mechanic whose job it was to assess whether the plane could fly again climbed up to inspect the turret. What he found was devastating. He delivered his assessment back to the captain via the ship's chaplain. The plane could technically be patched enough to fly, but in the tropical heat, with that much blood soaked into the cockpit, it would be impossible to make it serviceable. Within 15 minutes of landing, the decision came down from command. Loyce Deen would not be moved. He would remain where he had given his life. What made the decision even more remarkable was what came next. Orders were issued that the aircraft would not be stripped for parts. In 1944, aircraft components were desperately scarce. Every bolt, every panel, every instrument was needed. The Navy chose to sacrifice all of it. Loyce Edward Deen and his Avenger would go into the sea together. A Navy corpsman climbed up one last time to take fingerprints and cut Deen's dog tags from the body. Then a canvas was draped over the turret. The ship's chaplain stepped forward on the flight deck, and sailors gathered in silence, heads bowed, hats in hand. The wind carried most of his words away. Then came the low, mournful call of taps. And then, slowly, deliberately, the TBM Avenger was rolled to the edge of the USS Essex's flight deck and pushed into the South China Sea. Sailors watched in silence as the plane hit the water and slipped beneath the surface, taking Loyce Edward Deen with it. The burial was captured on film and was later featured in episode 12 of Victory at Sea, the landmark 1953 documentary series that chronicled the naval war in the Pacific. For decades, the footage ran without a name attached to it. No caption, no identification, just a ship, a plane, and a ceremony. It was only years later, through the work of dedicated researchers and family members, that the world finally learned who the man in the turret was. Loyce Edward Deen was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal, and the Purple Heart.